Hey, welcome to the first episode of the Next Level Disciple. And my name is Melody, and I'm really glad you're here. And I'm very happy. I wanted to actually share my testimony. And this testimony is basically showing you what God has done in my life and what He can do in your life as well. And it will give you a little bit of a basis of what this channel is going to be about. So I wanted to start off with maybe a small backstory because I don't want this to be too long-winded. Um, my story kind of started off here in church. I grew up in church my whole life, and I had no one to talk to. I knew of God, but to be honest, I didn't have a relationship with Him at the time. Like many other Christians growing up with me, I thought of God as scary, fearful, always wanted to beat me when I didn't get in trouble. It's like it's not a day I've never got in trouble for anything. But at the time, I was also grew up in an African household where all in a I grew. Sorry, I have police cars here. I don't understand. But anyway, I grew up in an African household where it's very common for parents to be a little bit more harsher than other with compared to other families that come from a different culture than mine. And I've always been treated harshly sometimes. Sometimes for little to no reason at all, but it got to the point that even I had to keep up with the appearance for the church. And someone who grew up in church, especially as a pastor's kid, that is also that's it's tiring. It's very tired. It's to me it's really tiring. You're not allowed to be yourself in front of everybody because if you try to be yourself in front of everybody else and truly express how you really feel, it's going to throw everybody off. So I really had to hide my true authentic self for the sake of my family. I'm the type of person who calls out how I see it. I don't mess around with foolish people all the time, but then again, with my father being the pastor, I could tell very quickly that not many people that he introduced me to were ever authentic or who they say they are, and they've been and of course my suspicions has always been proven otherwise when the church split a few years back. But this is besides the point. Because of my dad's relationship with the church, it actually soured out my relationship with him too. It got it to the point that he basically said that he would choose the church over me. And that's not something you tell to a child, especially to especially to a daughter who's have already emotional issues and doesn't have any friends growing up. And you would think their dad would actually be by their side, holding them tightly and just speak life into them. I'm just be honest, that wasn't my father at the time. And we didn't get along for a long time. And I had to, as much as I wanted to leave the church so bad, and my mom had to get me to go along with it as much as I didn't even want to be a part of a ministry or a church that was inauthentic, didn't have the love and relationship of God. And because of that environment, I thought that God was the same way too. That God was inauthentic. He didn't love me. He didn't care about me. He enjoyed seeing me in pain, and he enjoyed making fun of me just like everybody else. But of course that wasn't the case. At least that's what I thought. I thought he enjoyed sending people to hell just because. And that really set me in a deep, dark depression. Even going into high school, and I dive into pornography, even to cope with the pain, dealing with my family, my church, not having any friends, and being bullied in school. That was hard. Like I didn't understand why everybody was treating me so harshly, and I didn't do anything wrong to even provoke their actions towards me. I remember one day in seventh grade, it was just a it was my first time at a new school, and I was really excited. I wanted to meet new friends, but I noticed that a lot of the students, especially the girls in my class, they didn't like me for any reason, and all I did was smile at them, and and their response was to cuss me out. And this went on for months, even into going into the eighth grade. Like I had literally had not one, only had during my time, I only had one friend. And going into high school, I had maybe some friends, but I felt more lonely because not many people understand what I was going through. So I went online and looked up some pornography. So went on a porn website after I graduated from middle school, and I've been looking at different websites here and there, the soft one, the hard ones, even things that I don't even want to mention on this channel. I've been in and out of it. I was in it for over 12 years. So it's from I want to say from the time I turned four from the time I turned 14 to maybe I was 26. Yeah, 26. I was a porn addict for 12 years. That's rough. If you have To me, that was the roughest time for me. And that was my place of escape. And that was my place of escape. And I'll be honest, I found comfort in pornography that I did when I was around my family, or was I was at church, or was at school. I found comfort in just looking at another. And I'll just be honest, I also dealt with some sexuality issues, so I also had an attraction to girls. I just found comfort in that. It's almost like I had a friend that I could be honest with, but it's kind of like a friends with benefits. It kind of like friends with also some extra benefits as well. Although I wasn't really sexually active, I knew more about sex than I was supposed to growing up than I initially was supposed to, and I knew it was wrong. And I remember a few times when I was diving into pornography that I would notice some, like even demons will come into my room. I didn't know they were demons at the time, but I remember some of them were like 6 feet tall, and they would literally go ahead and just sleep with me. And I was only 14. I didn't know any better. And they would literally they would come in and sleep with me, and just they go on their way. And I would just leave out of there with such shame and condemnation of everything that I've been through. And I always feel so ashamed even to talk to God about it. In fact, even after it happened, I don't even talk to God for like 2 weeks. Sometimes it will go as far as even a month. That I don't even talk to God. I don't even bother to look up at Him, because that's how much shame I had in myself. And it got it to the point when I actually graduated from high school and got into college, the depression actually hit even deeper, to the point I was closer to ready to commit suicide. And I remember that time because that was the time I also gave my life to the Lord. It was around February 2013 or so. I was I noticed that with some of my old classmates, they were following God as hard, and I'd never seen that before. Even with my old church, like none of us were even following Christ like that. We were just there because our parents told us to. But with my classmates, especially my best friend at the time, she literally invited me to her high school to a Bible study, and I went, and of course I went, and I did as much as I could, but I didn't have an authentic relationship with God until I got to college. And I remember receiving a prophetic word that day that that somebody wanted to do like youth ministry, but sin always gets in the way. And I stepped out in faith because some reason, I always seemed to registered with me, like what the preacher was saying. I can't remember exactly why it registered with me and why I stepped out, but I knew I received Christ that day, and I knew the trajectory of my life changed. But it changed it, but it didn't change all the way. And I'll admit, my relationship with God was it really did start it off very rocky, because I had a deep, deep, deep distrust of him. I remember there are times when I literally come to Bible study and I try to study the word. I always felt like I was out of place, like I didn't even really belong. Like even here, I was like, God, I don't think you even want me here, based on the things I've done. Like, why would I even bother stay here? So eventually I stopped coming to Bible study altogether, and I began to plan my suicidal attempt at later on the next year. I set it the date around it was around my 21st birthday, which was, jeez, I want to say almost 6, 7 years ago. And I didn't, initially, I was going to set it up for my 20th birthday, but something happened and I didn't go through it. But when I transferred to another college, and this is my first time being away from my parents more than a few hours. So I was completely all alone in a new city by myself with a roommate who was pretty cool, but I was in a campus that I didn't know anybody. I had only a few friends. They were out somewhere, and I was in a campus by myself, and I had no one to talk to. So I spent majority of my days by myself, and even during the weekends, when my roommate goes home for the weekend, I would literally stay in the room by myself, and I would just cry myself to sleep because I literally had no one else to talk to. And the majority of the people who were in my dorm room, at least in the building, they were all 18, and I was 20. I was the only, probably one of the older people in the group, in the building. I was like close to 20, 21, close to 20, 21. And I didn't relate to the freshmen at all. In fact, I thought they were immature. And that made me feel a lot more lonely than ever. And the first semester at my new school, it was rough. It's like, I can't. It was rough for me because I couldn't understand why I couldn't make new friends or join a new club like some of my old classmates joined it. They pretty much assimilate and found new friends really quickly. All of the classmates that I was friends with in my old school, and we came together, they all went their separate ways and joined different communities, and I was left by myself again. And it got to the point that I remember the next semester, and I remember this vividly because it was Valentine's Day. I was listening to some really depressing music, and of course watching pornography at the same time. It didn't help that I remember going into my roommate's desk, and I found a bottle of Tylenol, and my plan was to like literally golf the whole thing down and go to bed. But I just felt, I don't know, at this point I felt like a force that literally stopped me from either opening the bottle altogether, and I just started crying altogether. I just couldn't, because I was in so much pain because no one really cared, nobody really loved me. I just put the bottle back in her desk, and she never, to this very day, she doesn't even know that I tried to kill myself using her pills. And I remember 4 days later, I did this as a joke, but I think it was kind of stupid now that I think about it. I told a therapist that I was ready to kill myself, and apparently she didn't think it was funny. So she and her colleague literally dragged me to the nearest hospital nearby on campus, and I had to get admitted. I had to admit myself to a hospital because I was ready to commit suicide. At this point, I did not care about my life anymore. I did not see my life past 21. I'll just be honest. And I didn't care at point. And plus, I didn't care what my parents think. I didn't care what my friends think. I just want this pain to end. And you know what the funny thing is? I remember seeing a vision of a man. And and I was sitting on the chair, and I remember this man. He was dressed in all white, and he was in tears. I didn't know who this man was, but he was in tears right in front of me, telling me, "Don't do this, like don't do this." And I remember that there was, and plus it was a second vision after that. Like everybody, like I saw a picture of my face. It was on, I think what do they call these things? One of those displays. I can't remember what they call it, but it was at a funeral, and everybody was in tears. Everybody was crying. Everybody wearing black, and I just remember my voice saying, "Do you really want?" It said, "Do you really want to do this to them? Is this what you want to turn your life into?" I didn't know. I didn't know back then that was the voice of the Lord that was calling out to me, trying to get me to change my mind. But at the point, I was not hearing it. I just didn't care. So I knew. So when I admitted myself to the hospital, and I spent I remember the first day I was literally bawling, because I literally feel like I literally effed up my life. Like I really messed up my life so bad. Like I literally did everything that my parents told me not to did I did everything my parents told me not to do, and this is what I deserved. Sorry, y'all. I had a interruption. But anyway, I remember the nurses, they came over. I thought the nurses were tapping my shoulder to let me know that the psychiatrist was ready to see me, not knowing it was not them. They were having like a really good old conversation. So I didn't know to this, I didn't know at the time, even throughout my stay, I didn't know who touched my shoulder. It wasn't until I got out the hospital and I went to the pharmacy to get my medication. I felt I felt a voice saying, "Get up and go to Bible study." Now, mind you, I became a full blown. I wasn't an atheist, but I was agnostic. I didn't know whether or not God even existed. I mean, I knew there was a higher power. Like I can't deny the fact that God did not exist, but I wasn't sure if it was him. I didn't know whether or not he even cared. But I just felt like he was pushing. I didn't even want to get off my chair because I was enjoying my food. But I literally felt him purging me like, "No, get up, get your stuff, and let's go to Bible study together." And I was like, "I don't even know you." I'm like, "Okay, I'll just go." So I knew there was a Bible study, and it was all around Monday nights. And I just grabbed my stuff, my pizza, and just got on the shuttle bus and got to Bible study. So I went there and I sat there and listened to the message. But to be honest, I didn't sit with everybody. I sat in the back on the floor because my self esteem was so bad to the point that I didn't feel like I even deserve a chair to even sit on. Yeah. And I honestly, I couldn't even tell you what they even preached on. I just remember saying, "I'm going to sit there, and once they're done, and when they start praying, I'm just going to walk out because it's not my seed." Like, I don't feel like I belong in church. I don't even belong in Bible study. So where exactly do I belong? So I was ready. So I literally got up and packed my stuff and was ready to get out the door. And I remember this freshman to this day. It's wild. But she said that there's somebody here who's attempted suicide. Please do not leave. We want to come pray for you. Even I think one of the leaders actually chimed in and say, "Please." I was like, "Don't leave. It's like it's not worth you killing yourself." I was like, "Life is beautiful," and I was like, "Whoa, whoa!" And I'm just. It really stopped me. What they were saying stopped me dead in my tracks. And I would just say, first of all, who are you people? I have not seen you in my entire life. How did you know I was in the hospital for over? Hey, so even after it shocked me that after that encounter with those students, and that's when they realized that it was God who visited me at the hospital. He's the one who visited me at the hospital and looked after me even when I was in college. I didn't have no one to talk to, but he was always around. Even when even though I didn't really know him like that. So I rededicated my life to God reluctantly because I didn't know much about him other than he's this big, fearful, scary God I knew to grow up in. And over time, he began to like reaching out to me. He started talking to me, and I didn't speak as much. I want to say I didn't speak as much, but I just started listening, and I noticed that he wanted to talk to me even over to the point that he would actually wake me up a little, like literally an hour before I even got up. He literally wake me up before my alarm even go off, and I didn't understand all this at the time. That he was trying to form a relation with me, but I was like, "What are you doing? I'm trying to go to bed." But it, like I said, when I started like 2013, even 2016, when all this happened, it was still a rocky start. Like I couldn't open myself up to God like that. But even going to like graduation in 2020, the pandemic happened. It got to the point that even during my darkest hour, God was literally there, and he kept talking even when I didn't talk back. He was talking and talking. I don't know how much I'll be honest, I didn't know how much I was listening. But I remember when the pandemic happened and everything shut down, it got to the point that I really had to make a choice. Either I'm going to do what I want to do, like I always want to do, and let everything fall through like it always happened before, or am I going to give this relationship, give my all to the Lord once and for all? Because it got to the point when I see everybody dying left and right and everything was shutting down, I have to start looking at my life like, seriously, where am I heading? Where exactly am I headed to in the first place? So I decided to give my life back to God officially back in 2020, and I haven't looked back ever since. And you could definitely do the same as well too. God is always there for you, regardless of what you've been through. And I remember even some of y'all wondering like, did he break off the depression? Yeah, he broke off. I haven't had a depressive episode since gave my life back to since gave my life to Christ. It's been like 2 years, 2 maybe 3. And I remember after I gave my life to Christ, a few months later, he officially broke the chain of pornography off of my life too. And I probably will probably dive a little bit into that video maybe later on this channel. But I wanted to share with you my story that I was a typical churchgoer, probably just like you, or maybe you're new to the faith. I did just about the same things that you did. But God literally turned my life around, and he has done it, and he will do the same for you. And I'm pretty sure you didn't end up on this channel by accident. It was God who ordained it, and it was God who actually brought you to this channel because he actually wants to teach you, nurture you, disciple you into the man and woman of God that he has called you to. So this channel is basically is prophetic. This is prophetic teaching. We're going to mainly on discipleship, and we're going to talk about this, what it means to live the supernatural life here in this last hour in the 24th century. And I hope you stick around because this is going to be an interesting ride. All right. So I hope this testimony actually been a blessing to you, and I hope make sure you hit that like button, smash that subscribe button, and share this testimony with somebody else. I hope my story actually been a blessing to you and show you that your journey is not that weird. It's very authentic. I had 3 conversions. People say that, oh, I gave my life to Christ one time. I had to give my life to Christ once, and I had to rededicate my life back to him twice. So my salvation stories always had a 3-part to it. So that's just my life. It's not like everybody else's, and I don't think I'll change it. That's just the way I am. So God bless you. I hope to see you in the next channel. Take care. Bye.